Morgan from Qlik, who will do a large part of this webinar. So we are, you can see there's both existing clients and potential new clients for Extend BI. So it will be both, especially when we come to the extension part. I'll show some that is probably known for some of you and new to us. You can put your questions in the chat, and then we'll take a session in the end to answer if there are any pending questions. The webinar is recorded, so we will send you a link to the video afterwards, so you won't miss anything if you need to check it out. So mostly today it will be about Qlik SaaS and especially around automations. Morgan from Qlik has been so kind to join to give you some great use cases on that. And in the last part, I will show you just how Komment writeback works on Qlik SaaS. I can spoil already now, say it's mostly the same as on Enterprise. But anyway, for you that hasn't seen it, then it's a good thing to see that it's very familiar. But I think, Morgan, I will stop sharing my screen, and then you are free to go ahead with your presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel. Let me get it going here. Let me know when you can see it.
Yes, looks good.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. My name is Morgan Adolfsson. I am a solutions architect here at Qlik. I've been working a lot with automations and with our SaaS platform. So today we're going to run through sort of a general overview of what Qlik Application Automation is. And then I'm going to show you some use cases, or one particular use case that I've seen a lot with customers that's been really powerful and really popular, and sort of give you both knowledge on how to build it, but while we're doing that, see the use case in action, see how easy it is to build. And then lastly, if I have time, I'll show you a little bit more of an advanced example of the automation in work, and see how it integrates with our Qlik applications. All right, so Qlik Application Automation, it's our no-code visual design solution for automating your manual workflows between SaaS applications. Data and analytics teams drag and drop configurable blocks onto a canvas instead of writing code to form a sequence of steps that run basically like a program. These automations flow data through a variety of applications to optimize the end-to-end pipeline between raw data and active intelligence. So basically, there's 4 general use cases that we see application automation being used for. The first one being dynamic actions. So basically initiating data-driven workflows on what's happening with your data inside of Qlik. Second being business process integration. That's what we'll be focusing on today. That's going to allow a lot of our back office workflows to be automated and also triggered by things that are happening inside of our Qlik applications. Of course, then we have analytics operations. This is, exporting apps. This is where the DevOps sort of applications come into play, promoting apps to different spaces and so forth. Stuff generally inside Qlik environment. And lastly, analytics automations. This is, your reloads, you're promoting apps to different spaces and so forth. So it's a little bit of analytics and a little bit of operations. Quickly connect to market-leading SaaS applications such as Salesforce, Slack, and MS Teams, which are represented as what we call smart blocks that remove the need to know basically the technical understanding and low-level API structures of these SaaS applications. At GA, we had 30 plus connectors. This was when it was released a few months ago. By now, that number has more than doubled and will continue to increase as time goes on. Yeah, we have our API blocks, and now we have our logic blocks, we call. And these are extremely powerful because once we start, you'll see once we start combining sort of these logical blocks with our API blocks, we start seeing how automations can be built out like code. So we're using conditions, variables, loops, and so forth. And that sort of makes these workflows really dynamic and powerful. So once you've built your flows, then you have a variety of mechanisms to trigger them, to run specific ways that you need it to run. So you can trigger ad hoc automations on demand from the run button, which we'll be doing today. But you can also schedule flows, use webhooks, and trigger flows from application events via an API. And this, of course, is all in native to your Qlik Cloud environment and inside your tenant. So today I'm going to be going over this particular use case, and that's automating the back office workflows as a Qlik developer. So I'm purposefully putting myself in a Qlik developer sort of persona here, so that we're building the application, or we're building the automation rather, for our front end consumers and maybe other personas that don't necessarily need to be in there building the automation itself. And so, like I said, I'm going to be the Qlik developer, and one of the big things is because organizations are so heavily dependent on SaaS applications nowadays, we see a lot of back office workflows reliant on these SaaS platforms. Luckily for us, Qlik Application Automation makes that interaction between all of those SaaS applications extremely easy and able to sort of automate all in one. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to create an onboarding automation. This automation is going to add a new member to their appropriate space. So if they're an administrator, if they're a developer, we're going to be able to put them into and set them up for that particular user role. So then we're going to load a personalized app from GitHub, where I've previously been versioning my applications and backing up my applications. Then we're going to interact with Okta and add, which is going to be our IDP, our identity provider. We're going to create a user, and then we're going to add that user to their particular identity provider group, so they have those access rights automatically. And then we're going to interact again with another SaaS application, Microsoft Teams, send a welcome message, welcome them into the administrative workspace and messaging space. And then finally, if I have enough time, I'm just going to show you an advanced example of this and how we've seen customers interacting in their Qlik apps with these automations. All right, let me just end this and switch over to my demo environment. Okay, so here we are. Again, I'm in my native Qlik Cloud environment. Simply gonna go to the top right, click New Automation. And the first screen we're gonna see here is our templates. This is super important. This is a great way to start getting started on building application automations, combining automations together. They're pre-built. You just need to configure them. It's very, very easy. And sort of a prerequisite to the automation that I'm building today is that I have used this commit an app to GitHub to actually start versioning and backing up my apps. So you'll see in a second that I have a series of apps in my GitHub that I'm using. But today we're gonna start for a blank automation. Let's just call this admin onboarding. So we're going to specifically be onboarding an admin user role. And again, we're going to be interacting with my GitHub. So you can see here I have admin apps advanced apps, and so forth. We're going to add this user to my admin space. And then we can see in Okta, I'm going to add them to, first of all, our overall Okta environment, but also to our administrative group right here. So let's get started. First thing we're going to need to use is on the left here, we see the logic block that I was talking about earlier. Here you'll find the variables, loops, and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop our input block. We do need some user information to pass through some of the blocks that we'll be using downstream. I go here on my right, and this is where I am actually configuring all my blocks, right? So a very easy UI to understand. I'm going to name these user inputs, which will be inputted when we press start. We're going to ask for the first name. Add another, we're going to ask for the last name. And then lastly, we'll ask for an email. And these are single line inputs. If you wish, we have multiple ways to input user information, drop down, multi-select buttons, and so forth. So really powerful there, what you can do to gather information from whoever's starting the automation. All right, we're going to navigate here. And again, a prerequisite is I have obviously connections. You will have a connection automatically to Qlik Cloud Services, but I have established connections and accounts to the blocks that I want to use. So navigate here to Qlik Cloud Services. We're actually going to use the very first block here, which is adding a member to a space. Again, on the right here where I put in my inputs, what we've done is as you're dragging and dropping blocks, we have the ability to actually look up in our tenant, so we can easily find the spaces or the users or the inputs that we want pretty easily. So knowing that I'm onboarding an admin user, I'm going to click admin space to be added to. I'm going to look up and I would like to add my colleague Troels Svensson to this group. And then here we can actually do access roles. And this is really powerful because depending on your space and what you want users to do in the space, we're actually able to customize exactly what they can do in the space. So for this, I'm just going to add one, which is consumer role. And that's that. Type doesn't need to be done, so we're done with that block. Now let's navigate to the GitHub block. I would like to get repository content. Because like I said, I have these in a specific repository. And in order to import into Qlik, I need to know the content of my repository or of this specific file in a repository. So I'm going to click here, drag and drop again at the bottom of add member space. We're going to look up, block repository content. It's going to look up through my connection in my Git. They'll see that this is the admin user. I'm going to look up what repository to look at, and it's going to be Qlik Apps. And then I need the path to the actual file that I want to add, or for the app that I want. So I'll go ahead into my repo and see here that I'll do admin. So I'll just copy and paste that. There we go. And put this here in my path. So now it's going to automatically go look into the repository content, pull that content, and give me an input for my next block. And if you have done backing up into Git, you'll know that when we do export apps into Git, they need to be Base64 encoded. So that's actually what's going to be pulled is my Base64 encoded Qlik app. And to import that, we luckily have a block called import app from Base64 encoded file. So now we're going to map this this part to our content. And one thing that's really cool here is before I've even done any runs, application automation is going to know the sort of response type that we're going to get from the GitHub API that we request. So I know from beforehand that it's going to be under the content response field here. So I'll map that. Another thing here is I keep saying mapping. Yes, field mapping, extremely important, extremely powerful tool here. I'm going to go ahead and name this app that I want. I'm going to name it first name. And this is very dynamic, right? So I'm mapping it to a general field, not a hard-coded value. So that makes this super dynamic and really useful. So it'll be first name, last names, new admin app. And then again, we know that we want it to go to our admin space. So we tell it to dump the app here, and that's that. All right, so next up, now we want to interact with our IDP, which will be Okta in this case. So I'll go here to my list of connectors, and we want to create a user. So another drag and drop. And as you see here, I'm interacting seamlessly between these SaaS applications. They're sort of doing a lot of stuff in the background to make these things work together. But for me as a user, I'm really just dragging and dropping, and you see how easy this is starting to be. So yes, we need some information from the Okta API to make this request. So we will add the first name here, again from our inputs field, add our last name here, and then it needs some email information, which of course we will map. And of course, you can fill all of this out if need be by adding inputs or passing it through a Qlik app. It's really up to you. But these are the required fields. This is what we'll do for this example. All right, so then we said we would like to add this, this user to a group. So we'll go ahead, click the Add User to Group tab, pull it here. It's going to go ahead and search my Okta group IDs. We again know that we would like this in the admin group. User ID will be actually, again, when I'm mapping this, I haven't done any test runs. I haven't run the automation, but we're going to know beforehand, or Qlik will know beforehand what a response type will look like when we call the Okta API. So we have sort of an example output here, and that's really useful. And we know that, but of course, if I wanted to, I can right-click and click Test Run. This will basically do all the API calls, and we'll have more of a clear or a real response type rather than the example response type that that is given when we start the app. So this we're going to map to the ID that we get from creating the user in Okta, and that's that. All right, so lastly, we would like to, again, communicate with another SaaS application that we use quite often, and that would be Microsoft Teams. So we're going to go here, look for Microsoft Teams connection, and luckily for us, there is a send message block that will again map the appropriate fields. So here I have my team ID. I do have a special channel for my Qlik administrators. I'm then going to look for the specific channel. And content again, what's going to be in the message? I would like to send welcome. Let's do this. Let's say, let's welcome. And then we do a field mapping, first name, last name to the field. And that's going to be the message sent to the admin group. Yay. All right, so there we go. We're very simply adding 3 or 4 SaaS applications to our automations. Basically, as we've set out to do, sort of removing a lot of manual tasks from the onboarding workflow that we normally have in an organization. And hopefully this will we'll run this automatically, but again, I'll show you a little bit later that there are different ways to interact with this automation, but today we will be running it manually, and let's give it a try. So yes, we're prompted here for Trolls's information. And I'm not scared of errors because errors is part of application automation, I can tell you. We have a great way of error handling and figuring out exactly the type of errors, but crossing our fingers that this will go first time. Oh, and we have an we have an error already. All right, so we see here, this is fine. We are in our block, add member to space. We need to sort of see what's happening there. So assignment, create payload invalid. So let's see here, sees here that I have missed a quote in my user role. So I know exactly to navigate to this block, add my quotes, and save it. I can tell you from working a lot from this is how you learn from Qlik Application Automation. It's really part of it, and I really love how we get that error message and can navigate exactly to our space. So sorry again, trolls. All right, seems to be clocking a little bit more. All right, and we see here that we have a successful run. Again, I can look through each block, see sort of what's happened, what's been the input, what's been the output, no errors, and get really all the information that we want to get from each block and what's happened. So let's go ahead and check our applications and see if this has worked. All right, so already I see that Troll Svensson's new admin app has been added here. I will look and see if Trolls is in our space, which he is. That's great. Then I'll go over to our Okta environment, refresh the page. We can see Troll Svensson is now pending to be added to our identity provider. And I see that Trolls has been added to our administrative group. And last but not least, a very kind welcome to Troll Svensson in our Teams channel. So we basically interacted with 3 or 4 different SaaS applications, removed a lot of these back office workflows and sort of manual work, and sort of did it in a way that really anybody can go into these automations and do it extremely quickly. So we've removed maybe 3 or 4 people who are actually tasked to handle our IDPs or handle our revisioning systems, sort of combined it into one. And very briefly, I think I have enough time to about 3 or 4 minutes, right? Just show you basically what we've seen a lot of users doing with onboarding automations like this. Here I have basically a new employee table, and I have employee information, what user group they are a part of, and I can simply, as a front-end user or maybe an HR user, decide that I would like Finn to be onboarded. So I simply click a button. This button is, of course, tied to a particular automation that's both going to read the name, read the email, and more importantly, read the user group that is associated with this user and filter them or run them through the appropriate workflow. So here's the sort of a little bit more complicated automation that we have here. is I'm passing that information to this automation. It's going to basically look at that field and decide if it's an end user, we're going to initiate this workflow. If it's an advanced, this one, and admin, this one. And a little bit more information. The modular nature of Qlik Application Automation allows us to do something like this. So we have this workflow here, which is an administrator onboarding automation. We can actually copy these blocks, go back to our workflow, we're going to copy blocks with attached blocks. Going to paste these blocks in our workflow, and since this is an administrator workflow, we're just going to go ahead and drag it and drop it into this loop. And so the use case here is not only we have an app that's going to allow us to trigger it, but we have individualized workflows depending on what users we're trying to onboard. So this is an administrator one, but of course, advanced users will be assigned to advanced spaces and to advanced IDP groups and so forth. And this is all done, of course, in the back end, but in the front end, as a Qlik user, we are just normally interacting with our application. So I hope you can see sort of the art of the possible here and sort of how you can extend these automations to not only do one or two workflows, but multiple workflows. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll take any questions, and I think with that, I'm right at 2:30, so I'll pass it on back to you, Daniel. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Morgan. That was very interesting. I'm sure that you could have shown a ton of use cases already, but any questions, we'll take that in the end if anybody pops up. I will just share my screen here. So I can see there's at least half of the audience hasn't worked with writeback before. So I will just briefly talk about Komment and how it works, basically, but not go into too much depth, but just focus on some of the differences there between SaaS and enterprise when doing writebacks. So first of all, as you can see, I'm also on Qlik SaaS here, inside an app already, a demo app that we have. As normal, you have the normal Qlik charts and so forth, and then the object here is the comment object, so the writeback object in a table form. So the main idea is, as you would normally do with Qlik, you can interact with the data as you need to, and as you can see, the table comment table here obviously responds to all the selections that you're doing. So you don't have to do selections in Qlik. You can also do the selections directly in the table if you need to, or you can just basically just use the table as it is to go in and do your changes. And this is just a simple example, so please don't take this as any limitations. You have full flexibility in setting it up. So, but let's just say here, for instance, I had a case that I wanted to close. I can go in and set it the status to close. The follow-up will change to no action, and I can just say here that everything looks good. Or maybe I should just remove that here like this, and I will continue working on some of the other parts as well. If I wanted to, you can see I can just change here as I move along, and I get small indicators that I have some changes, but they're not saved yet. So to save the data, so other users can see them as well, is basically just pressing the save button here. And as you can see, now it's already updated directly in the comment table, and in this very second, it was also pushed into the rest of the Qlik data model. So it works very smooth, and everything that you have done here, from all the responsible persons, the dates, the follow-up, all that. I mean, you can use that in your rest of the data model. So it's integrated, and you can work with it. Your users can work with it in that sense. Just quickly show you how it looks from a developer perspective. So you have the normal, you can say, Qlik sidebar menu out here to do all your settings. As you can see right now, I'm in what's called table mode. We also have form and pop-up. So maybe I should just show the form mode so you can see it. It will just be a form like this that you can design however you like, and it works the same way. Here you can say interact with select your relevant one or more records before you do your saving on using the form. On the table, obviously, it's on the given record that you're editing. How Komment works is that you basically related a comment to a table in your existing data model, and then you define what additional fields do you want to, you can say, let the users be able to change or add data to. Or you can also have existing fields from the fact table or from the table that you can allow your users to change. You can also see here that we have the first widget, as we call it, is a type read only. So that means that it's shown, but it's not possible for the user to change it. So it's more for being able to relate to the data that he's changing. And then we come down to the status field. That's the first one that you can actually change. So you can see here that's just a drop down that you can define the values yourself, either by hard coding, as I'm doing here. You can see now you already get that option to select that, or you can use data inside your app to actually populate the drop down menu. So it's very flexible, and you really don't have any limits on that. You can see here in the responsible person here, where I actually use a list of users that is loaded into the app to define what is being populated in the dropdown. Yeah, so all of this works exactly the same way on SaaS and on enterprise. So there's nothing new there. The thing that is a bit different is you can say how you do the final steps in your setup. Normally you would when you're done with your setup in here, and just in the widget section here, we generate a load script for you. So because what's happening is that when you press save, the data is saved either in Qlik files or in a database, and then it's loaded back into Komment or to Qlik Sense app. Sorry, so you get the data as part of it. And in this part here, actually, we're using a backend service that we call Captain that actually handles all the saving. But let me just show you how it looks when you use the Komment extension on its own, where it basically saves data to Qlik files, and these Qlik files are stored on your tenant in your catalogs simply. So in here, for instance, the difference from SaaS or from QC is very small. You get the load script, and then the only thing you need to actually do is just change the data connection here. It's not possible to change from the UI, so it's two places in the load script that you simply just put in the relevant space or data where you hold your data. You can see it from the load editor here. So here's just in data files, but it could be data files / space name or whatever where you want to put the files. So you can see in this case, I'm storing into a table called sales VA here. So if I move over to my tenant overview, and here I'm in my personal space, it could also be shared spaces and so forth. You can see here I have my Qlik. So that Qlik file, that's the one that is actually saved when I press save or a user press save. So that holds the data that the user saves, and which is also made available in the app. But you will also always have the ability to go into your catalog here to check, okay, the actual content of the data the user has saved. Obviously, it's in the app as well because we load it back in immediately. But it's just for you to see how you can work with the QED files as the storage option. One thing to note is that when you use it on SaaS, we have this SaaS has the concept of spaces, and it works a bit different than QC with streams. So there are some limitations as to what you can actually do with the Komment extension only, because here you cannot save data in an app from an app that is in a managed space. So for that purpose, you would need Captain. And Captain was actually what we had configured here. So it's a service that is installed, obviously not on the SaaS tenant, but on your own server somewhere that you connect to. You can see it here. We have a URL for that service, and then we have some settings to select where the data is stored and in what way and so forth. And it actually comes with a whole module as well, an admin module. So you don't have to, you can store it to 5 different databases, but you will always, from the admin console as an admin or developer with needed rights, be able to see the data that you have saved for the different tables. So we call them capsules here, but you can see here I have the my demo app here with the data, and here I have all the records that has been saved and then being loaded back in. But in here you have the full overview. And with Captain, it actually allows you to store data or use Komment on all types of spaces. So both shared and managed, and without the user having to have any specific permissions on the given spaces, simply because it's Captain that handles everything, all the communication with Qlik, and has is set up with the sufficient rights to do the saving. And so with Captain, actually communicates directly with the database. That's why you saw it was I would say it was quite fast. Obviously, you could have another opinion, but as you can see here, you're already ready to keep working in the table, and then in the backend, it will actually store the data or load the data back into the Qlik app. What I want to show over here was actually that you could also do expressions inside the Komment table. So you have a sales forecast that's looking at the sales number, the growth number here. So let's just say I change this to 20%. You'll see the change here, the 240, and you can also see the Qlik KPI object also changes immediately. You could also go in and change manually, as we have done here, for instance. So we'll again, that's just a formula that we use for the sales forecast. So no big deals here. But just goes to say that Komment is, I mean, if you know your way around Qlik, you will easily know your way around Komment as well. Good. So that was basically just the normal part about Komment. It works as you can see. It works the same way as in Qlik Sense Enterprise. Or there's a few things on the backend that you need to be sure how to handle. When using with Captain, you can also use it with all license types. So capacity and analyzer licenses are supported. So really no limitations on that either. And then we've made a small example using the Qlik automation just from actually Mike Torello did a video on it on how to send customized mail. So instead of using the Teams as Troll showed, then here we're just using a normal mail flow that we set up. So I can just see if I can navigate to it here. here we have set up an automation here. I won't go into the whole dev as Morgan did, but as you can see, we again take some inputs. Then these inputs are actually something that we take from the Komment object or the Qlik table as well when the user do any interactions. So we know who should the mail be sent to, and that's coming directly from the Qlik app. But let's try and see if I can get it to work here. So here we have again the simple sales table. Maybe I'm a area manager or something. I'm looking into the different processes, see if everything is according to plan. Maybe I see that in Denmark the car sales is not as expected, so I can write to Ben and ask how come the numbers are so low. Like this, and I can just send him a message here. So obviously then you can then select who should have the mail. Is it Ben? Is it whoever it is? I won't disturb anybody here, so I'll just select my own initials. So what you do here is you press save in the Komment object, so you can see, okay, now as it was before, the data has been saved, and then you can choose here to send a message to Ben, and the message will actually be completely customized to what it is that you're obviously it will show him the message, but also take, okay, what's the country and what product does it actually relate to. So let me just see if I can grab it from here. Yeah, okay, here, so you can see it just arrived. So you can see I can actually tailor the subject line here for the specific record in the data, and I can also directly put in a link to the app and the sheet, so the recipient could just directly go in and see what it is, and maybe even respond if you put that up. Also, obviously using Komment, you can set up additional comment fields and so forth that you can actually allow the users to interact like that. Yeah, but that was just a simple way to also, take the automations and take the active intelligence even further to actually act on it and to involve your colleagues and get people to reply, to take action and so forth. And that's using here Komment and the Qlik automation together. Good. Let's see, so that was right on time. So we have just a few minutes back for any questions. But I'll just stop sharing here. Let's see if there should be any questions here. Yeah. Oh no. Again, the question around the license part. So we work with both analyzers and capacity, and obviously also professionals. Especially, you have to use Captain for that. And the extension only works obviously also with professional licenses and on shared spaces. So it depends on the setup that you have. Okay, let's just see if there should pop any more questions in around the automation or the writeback. Doesn't seem like it. Troels, Morgan, do we have anything you want to add here before we shut it down for today?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of inspirations that we get are obviously from the templates that I showed at the beginning of the demo, but those have been all pre-approved and sort of made to make customizable. But we do have a very active and a very healthy community on our help forums and our board under Qlik Application Automation, which has hundreds of more that users have created and shared, both with relevant use cases. And because these automations are easily downloaded and uploaded into a space, it's as easy as downloading a JSON file and then uploading it into your Qlik tenant, and then sort of configuring it as I did after that's done, and configuring it to your environment. So I suggest that if anybody needs some inspiration or would like some more ideas, to definitely go to the help and community forum for Qlik Application Automation to get those sort of ideas.
Okay, so it actually means you can upload an automation in the same way as a QEF forum.
Yeah, absolutely. So they get downloaded and uploaded as a simple JSON file. These can be shared. There is sort of a lot of questions around sharing automations within a tenant, which is going to be available later to do it sort of natively. But for the time being, we can share automations through sending each other, JSON files of the actual automation. So it is something that you can co-develop on and can use in multiple tenants by doing that.
Okay.
And maybe also add that application automation is part of the SaaS platform. It's not an additional product. It doesn't carry additional licenses. It's just baked in.
Yeah, great. That's really, really powerful. I mean, so, but I want to thank you, Troels and Morgan, for joining and putting in some good examples and knowledge here. And now it's my mail that will be on the contact afterwards. But so if you have anything related to Qlik, then I'll be happy to pass it on as well. So please don't be shy if anything should come up afterwards. But let's say that was it for today, and then yeah, have a great rest of the week.